Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Liverpool Connection podcast. I am Daz, your host, and I've got Steve with me as always. And tonight, I have got somebody all the way from Raleigh, North Carolina. He's also an author of Walking Through the Storm. We've got Mr. Ken Kendra. How are you, mate?
Good, sir. How are you? Thanks for having
Good,
me.
good. It was a good day for football today. Very good for the gun, the Gunners, I guess. It was just one. It was a weird one. I mean, I thought City were gonna trample all over them. So it's kind of nice, the little laugh that Pep does for us, not reaching that record, and then he was hoping for the treble. Now it's the Mickey Mouse Cup, and hopefully it stays the Mickey Mouse Cup.
Correct. Yes, I got a little chuckle out of it myself. So happy to find out that Leeds gets promoted. Not for anything other than the historical value that presents, and the going to enjoy watching them play Man U next season twice. So that'll be fun. But also, anytime City loses, with the amount of money that they invest, it's a good thing. So. Listen, we were all over Arsenal on Wednesday, and we should have, stomped them. Good for them. So I'm proud. I'm happy. In Raleigh, we actually share our bar with a smaller contingent of Arsenal fans. And when we played Spurs in the Champions League final, they were, our second biggest fans. So they were real happy to see that happen. So I'm happy for those guys, and I'm rooting for them to win the cup. So good day.
Yeah, they have a good chance, and hopefully, I always hate
hopefully
to
Chelsea.
say it. Yeah, I do
hopefully
as well.
Play Chelsea.
Yeah, I do as well. Well, it was funny to listen to Ole today as well. He's come out and said there's this whole persona of the VAR situation now with United, and he's basically saying people are making it up, and I'm like, well, the stats don't make it up. VAR as champions United this year, with the decision making. So Ole's just trying to take it off the team,
Man, everyone has their own narrative when it comes to that sort of thing. So
yeah, well, stuff all of them. I want to get to know a little bit about you. So
sure.
What made you a Liverpool fan?
Well, that's a kind of an interesting story, but long story short, best I can, I've been playing football my whole life, and started in the late 70s, and had a English assistant that always talked about a guy named Kevin Keegan, how great of a footballer he was, and as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, just the initials just were like, well, he's got to be good. He's, KK, I'm KK. So, but as I kind of grew a little bit into, my teenage years and into high school and whatnot, I got into music and was just listening to Pink Floyd. And as a high schooler that played soccer and everything else, and then when I heard the song Fearless, from the Pink Floyd album, the song fades out and fades into the cop singing "You Never Walk Alone," and you could clearly tell that this is a bunch of football fans singing to their club. And I just envisioned and daydreamed that would be what I would want to do, is if I was playing soccer professionally, I would want to play in front of fans like that. When I found out that was Liverpool, and that was the same team that Kevin Keegan played for, it pretty much was just written that's the team I'm going to pull for. We didn't really have access to the Premier League through the 90s until the internet became a little bit more prevalent, and cable became a little bit more prevalent. So it just became a natural fit for me. But that's kind of my story, and I stuck with them. My first game that I went to in 2004, I just started dating my current wife, and we were living in New Jersey. It was 2004. And I remember I bought a ticket to see them play a preseason game at Giant Stadium. And she was like, what, you're going to go see some soccer game? And I just bought one ticket. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to the Meadowlands. It turned out to be Michael Owen's last game. and he scored. It was a 1-1 draw, and it was a fantastic environment and experience. And obviously the rest is history. Just was sold from that.
You ever been to Anfield?
I have a bunch of times. So the first time we went to Anfield, I'll tell you a funny story about that. Was it was actually 2012 when I first met a friend of mine, Bernie. We went to Fenway Park, my brother and I. And before the match, LFC Boston had hooked up Robbie Fowler and Ian Rush to come for a signing session. I had printed out a picture of Robbie Fowler snorting the line after his goal against Everton and got him to sign it. And as he was signing it and everything else, I got him to sign 3 copies. And I have a picture that someone took of Ian Rush laughing at Robbie Fowler signing my picture that he was signing for me. But I had 3 copies of it. And a few hours after that signing session, my brother got to go to the training session at Fenway Park, and I went to the bleacher bar underneath the right field bleachers, and I met a guy named Bernie who lives 100 yards from the Cop. And I showed him the pictures, and he was just like, that's awesome. I want one of those copies. And I said, he told me, he said, I'm a season ticket holder in the Cop. I will trade you tickets for any game that you want to go to. We stayed in touch, and that was 2012. And a couple of years later, a bunch of my mates from Raleigh wanted to go to Anfield, and they were trying to figure out a way to do it. And I said, well, listen, I got a free ticket for any match I want to go to. So we had identified the Arsenal match, February 2014, because the following Wednesday we were playing Fulham at Craven Cottage. So we were like, okay, we can get 2 matches in 1 week. I reached out to Bernie, and Bernie actually arranged to get 6 tickets for us all in the Cop right next to each other. Actually, he got 6 tickets all over the park, and he got his mates that he sits next to go around the park and let us sit together.
Oh, man, that's brilliant.
And so it was brilliant. And we were, maybe about 25 rows up. And you'll remember that was the 5-1 win in February of 2014, where Skirtle scored twice in the first 10 minutes, and we were up 4-0 after 19, and it was a great week. So that was my first trip to Anfield, and of course, that was a 12:30 kickoff. And so when that was over, we just continued through the rest of the afternoon and loving it and partying it out with all the Anfield and Liverpool. And it was a long day, long night, and it was a fun night. So.
And my next question, what does winning the league mean to you?
Honestly, it probably doesn't mean as much to me as it means to a lot of other folks that have been supporting the team through the 90s. I never really felt the pain, of the Manchester United era where they were winning all those titles. What it means to me mostly is that I not that I'm going to say I lost faith, but I will say that it felt like a huge uphill wall that we had to climb with the new money coming in with Chelsea and Man City, knowing that there's 6 really strong clubs that can, potentially, to win. It just was difficult to imagine that we were going to do it. And, to see Klopp come in and have a plan and have a strategy and build the club the way he has, you could sort of see how all this was coming about. And it means a lot, but I always thought that the league was going to be out of reach, and that if we were going to win something, it was going to be in a knockout elimination type tournament like the Champions League ends up becoming, or the FA Cup and that sort of thing. But I said to sustain success over 38 games, it's just too daunting with all the money that's out there, and how I just felt like it was just a big uphill struggle to compete with that. But here we are, and the way we've done it, it's been incredible, and it's something I'm never gonna, obviously forget. So, and I hope everyone recognizes the greatness that Klopp has brought to us. This is a new era, and it's a I'm not going to call it a dynasty, but it's an era that's going to be never be forgotten within Liverpool lore. So
Yeah, I
I
think
hope people recognize that.
I think we just needed to get that first trophy, you know, Champions League, obviously last season. And I think that's, you know, when you've won something, you've got that winning mentality. So, you know, I thought this season we defo would have challenged. If you would have told me in August we would have won, you know, we're going to win the league by 20 odd points, I would have said, get out my house. Like, you're absolutely crazy. Did I think we were going to challenge? Yeah. But I just thought maybe December, January, we would start to kind of tail off a bit, as we have in the last couple of seasons. So, yeah, I'm, you know, people will say like the pandemic has taken the shine off of winning it. I think it has a little bit, especially watching the games, because, you know, it's weird watching a match when there's no fans. But come next Wednesday, when we watch Hendo lift that trophy, that's all gone out the window. You know,
absolutely.
I'm going to be partying like there's no tomorrow. So, you know,
I tell you what, for me, one of the things that kind of I keep going back to in terms of like whether or not we were going to come back to contend. I go back to, like, you know, Alexis Sanchez, and, you know, people just say, why didn't we pay more for him? Why don't we do this? Why didn't we, you know, that kind of thing. And it's up to the player. The player has as much say in where he goes as the club does. Mm-hmm. I say he was never coming to Liverpool. And I kept saying to myself, how do we convince the best of the world to come play at Liverpool? And without Klopp creating that environment and that winning mentality, we don't get a Virgil van Dijk, we don't get an Alisson Becker. And without those two guys, we can't challenge for 38 matches. And so that's, for me, that was always the hurdle. I was like, we might be able to compete in a knockout elimination like a Champions League, but, you know, we won't have the consistency that we need to have for over 38 matches unless we can bring in the best players in the world. And now we have, so, which is great.
And where do you see us, like the need to bring somebody in? Who do you think, not player wise, but like positional wise, who do you think needs to come in for next season?
So, you know, I always struggle with this. I like to be a fan. I like to root for the players, and I trust in what the management and what Klopp is going to do. If I had to, everyone says we need to bring another world-class striker in because Divock Origi is not good enough. And I'm like, I said, well, you know, are we going to pay 150,000 pounds a week for a guy to sit the bench? Because that's ultimately what you're asking to do. And is that model going to fit what we can afford? I'd like to see a center back come in. I love Matip, but he's injury prone. I love Gomez, but he's inexperienced and he's going to be prone for bad spells. So I would like to get you know, and I love Lovren, but obviously he's prone to his mistakes, and he's also got, he's getting up there in age. But I would like to see a center back come in for cover, someone that could challenge I'd like to see a nice rotation there. People talk about left back and, you know, bringing in cover for Robbo, and I think that's probably valid as well. But, you know, we can't necessarily bring in a guy at a high wage rate, you know, and expect him to get playing time. So I'd like to see, this is selfishly, I also would like to see, you know, a young American talented player get in. I had my eye on Weston McKennie for a long time. I'd like to see him maybe come over and get groomed and play, maybe go out on loan, but bring him back and help, you know, help develop himself. I'd like to see, you know, a defender come in that can play maybe left back and play center back and maybe help solidify that. I just honestly don't see a world-class striker coming in to be a fourth player. But whatever Klopp decides to do, I'm on board, and whoever he brings in, I'm on board, and I support all the players regardless who they are and how they do.
Great answer. No, I agree with you. I mean, obviously, yeah, we need some strengthening. But end of the day, you know, if Klopp goes, the squad is good enough, then, you know, we just won the league. So obviously they are.
One of my pet peeves when I'm at the pub and I'm talking with folks and they say we should bring this guy, that guy, the other guy, whatever. I goes, this isn't FIFA, this isn't Football Manager.
Yeah.
You got to think about. And one of the biggest things that Klopp had said was he's talking about bringing in Timo Werner, and he said, how do I ask the players for a pay cut and then turn around and offer another guy more money than 3/4 of my roster? And how is that going to do the dressing room?
Yeah.
So, and I do buy into that. So I think team chemistry is more important. And that's going back to the whole Coutinho issue when they sold Coutinho. I actually thought that move was precipitated by the fact that he was being, I'm not going to say a cancer, but he probably wasn't, the other players are looking around. It's like, what we got to do? This guy doesn't even want to be here.
I think he had cancer in his back. Didn't he have a
cancer tumor in his back? like for a week. Miraculously disappeared. Yeah.
Well, I think
must have been that warm weather in Spain.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, I do think a lot of players, or a lot of fans don't recognize how important team chemistry can be and how it is. And so, and I respect that, the business side of it. So, whatever they decide to do, I'm good with, and I'm all for it. So.
Yeah, I think we all have to take a step back sometimes because, especially these last couple of matches, haven't been the greatest. But, the 30 matches before that have been really, really good. We've won the league, but people just want, now people are starting to get kind of a bit pissed off. They're like, well, the winning mentality is gone. So does that move on to next season? I'm like, it blows my mind. I'm like, we just won the league. Like, why are you even talking about next season? Why are you even complaining? Obviously they're going to check out for a match or two. The Arsenal match, like you said, Ken, we were all over them, and our two biggest, defensive players, Alisson and Virgil, made two mistakes. The Virgil never makes a mistake,
Yeah.
And he's human. So one mistake in 36 matches isn't bad,
Right.
People just don't think like that though. It's this like, especially if you get online now, social media. I can't stand it after the match because people are just on there like, Liverpool have turned to crap. I'm like, here we go, armchair managers. They just do my head in. Like,
it's bizarre. It really is. I was making this comment to my mates, and it's a results-based business, and results do matter. But at the end of the day, when you look at how that result was obtained, I was telling my mates, I said, guys, we could have been playing Tranmere Rovers and given up those 2 errors, and they would have scored, and we could have lost to them 2-1. You know what I mean? It's just, those were 2 colossal mistakes by 2 of your best defenders and players. And it matters not that we outshot them 23-2 or whatever the number was. At this level, you can't make those mistakes and expect to get away with it. So, you move on.
Well, I think we helped Arsenal anyway, beat City.
Yeah,
we kind of prepped
them the
them.
confidence.
Yeah, we prepped them for it. So, but yeah, I'm just amazed at how this team has played. Obviously, the league title is the big one. I would have liked to have, had a bit of a run in the FA Cup, because we haven't been to Wembley since 2006. So that was tough. Champions League, obviously mistake by Adrian, because again it was one of those matches that we were up. We had everybody. The crowd on our side. Adrian just lost the plot for like 2 minutes, to get them back in. It happens,
Yeah, to be fair to Adrian too, I mean, we should have not even let that game go to extra time. I mean, we were all over them, and but he made that mistake, and it's horrible for him. And I feel bad for him, but it's a team game, and we should have been up 2-3-0, in that second half. We just couldn't finish. So, but I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I think that personally, I think that Klopp feels the pressure of the fans and feels the need to have won that league. He's done it, and I think now he's got a little breathing room, and he can say, okay, now we can focus. We don't have to go all out for the league. We could probably next year maybe make a cup run or two, or so it would be nice to be competitive on a couple different fronts, as opposed to just the one front. But and to be fair, I mean, we should have beat Atletico. We could still be in the Champions League, so we could have gotten a double this year. But you're right. I'm with you on that. I would like to see us make a good cup run. But at the same token, you look at it and you say, they've got good players that aren't getting runs out that need some time, and that's a great opportunity to get those runs out. So I don't know how I would do it any differently, and certainly I don't get paid enough as much as he does, and he's pretty good at what he does. So I'll put my trust in him.
Oh yeah, so should a lot more people. All right, Steve, it's your turn, mate.
Hey, Ken, good to talk to you again. Before we get into your book, I wanted to ask you some questions about your book. I want to also talk about the OLSC Raleigh. A couple weeks ago, we had Satara Murray on. She played at North Carolina, ex-LFC women's player.
Okay.
And so, for the most everybody knows that North Carolina is such a hotbed of especially collegiate soccer. But you guys became an official supporters club in 2014, if right, at the end of 2014.
Correct.
And that's
right.
A year after we did. So can you kind of go back to that and just tell the people the process of getting that going? Because I know you guys are one of the bigger supporters clubs now. You guys are always involved in doing different things, especially when the Liverpool comes to the United States. And just kind of go over from 2014, that stage, and what it's become now, if you don't mind.
Yeah. No, sure, Stephen. Also, thanks for having me. It's great to see you again.
Of course.
Steve has a special place in my heart, the spot in my first book, which we'll talk about later. But in any event,
I have it bookmarked.
So, but to your question, when I remember the day we got Jane notified us that we were going to become official. So back then, you had to put in all the documentation, and I'll go back a few months before that when we used to go to the pub, the London Bridge pub in Raleigh, where we go to the matches for our viewing parties. And everyone kept talking about we should try to become an official club, and here are the requirements and all this other stuff. And no one was really willing to do the work and take the time to do it. And I just said, well, listen, I tell you what, let me go ahead and look into it and figure out logistically what needs to happen, put together the stuff I need to happen, and get everything else. But at the time, they said that they would make their selections for the next, I guess, incoming class, so to speak, in like October. And we had missed the boat. We missed the deadline when we were putting our stuff together. And I said, guys, this will be a good target for us to try to get for 2015 or at the end of 2014. And what ended up happening was the club had announced they were coming to North America for a tour, and Charlotte was going to be on the list. And I had all my paperwork ready to go, but I hadn't submitted it yet. So I submitted the paperwork. Actually, some of the guys from Atlanta I had been talking to, and they were encouraging me. And in fact, I remember sitting in my living room, drinking a whiskey and texting with a guy from Atlanta. And he said, dude, you got to put your paperwork in, just get it done. But so I got all that stuff in and hadn't heard anything. And then I decided, like, it was like April when the announcement came out, they were coming to Charlotte. And we were like, well, Charlotte doesn't have an official club at the time. But then all of a sudden they had an official club. So I appealed to the club, and I said, Jane at the time, and I emailed and I said, listen, we'd like you to, reconsider. We've got a strong case for our for Raleigh to be an official supporters club. And lo and behold, after we concluded that season in 2014, where we obviously didn't win the league. We finished a close second. On that Monday, I got a phone call from Jane, and she said, "Listen, we've read your case. We agree. You're only 2 hours away from Charlotte. We're coming to Charlotte. We'd like to welcome you into the family, so to speak." So it was a huge day for me personally, but also for us as a club, and it's just blossomed since then. Moving forward, we've been fortunate enough to have Liverpool come to Charlotte twice, right? So that year in 2014, and then two years later, 4 years later, they came in 2018. And it has been a huge marketing ploy for us, recruiting wise. When Liverpool comes to North Carolina, we're like, get the word out. We're in Raleigh, and if you're a fan, you want to come join our club. And we have the kind of mentality where we charge $25 a year or whatever, but it's optional, right? Just, we want you to kind of contribute because we want you to be part of our family. And we've kind of grown to be about 200 paid members, which has been fantastic. And like you said, it's a hotbed. There's a lot of young kids that are playing soccer, and they're loving the way Liverpool play football, and they're loving that, and they're becoming fans. And then people find out that we have a club, and we can get access to meet the players or meet, legends and all this other stuff. And it's really kind of just spiraled, in a positive direction for us. So yeah, it's been fantastic. And we have had that fortunate luck to be able to host the club twice in our home state, only 2 hours drive away. So a lot of benefits have come from that.
I think one of those games was Dortmund, right? You got Liverpool versus Dortmund. Wasn't that in Charlotte?
In Charlotte, yeah. Virgil van Dijk scored, and Christian Pulisic scored too. So,
yeah. But I mean, just like you have the two teams that sing "You Never Walk Alone." Right. So that had to have been quite the experience. I think we ended up, our group, for the most part, we ended up going to the Big House in Ann Arbor that year. To see Manchester United. So so that it was a close call. It was like, okay, which one do we want to do? But we went for the one that was on the weekend, and I think that was the ultimate deciding factor for us. So that it's exciting because even here in Austin, I mean, we had our official charter was 2013. But people have been meeting in different iterations prior to that. Adi and some of the older guys, we've been meeting since 2000, but like three of us, and just asking a bar to open up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and and no one else is there but us, and so it's a prestige factor too, and I think, and you've been a great proponent of this, and you get the word out to a lot of the other clubs across the country about helping them get to that status. And I think it's excellent on your part that you're such an advocate of that, because it does change things for a group that once they become the official, club, it really does open up a lot of opportunities with the parent club, just to use some of their resources. And it's, and it doesn't hurt that, and like you're saying, that the style of play that Liverpool has. I mean, you go back earlier, teams wanted to play like Arsenal back, in the early 2000s. Then they wanted to play like Barcelona. People want to play like Liverpool. You don't hear that about other teams in the Premier League. Oh, I'd like to play like Manchester United. No one says that ever, right? They don't. There's not a style, but Liverpool has a style, so it's been excellent, and so yeah, it's always interesting to me to hear the other stories of other clubs and how they got their charters, and then you get on these national calls and everybody's excited about things, and
it's kind of funny, and this, Stephen, because we've talked about this in the past, but we get on these national calls like you talk about, where you do with the preseason, and we get these access to these events and everything else. And a lot of people treat it like it's a golden ticket, or they treat it like it's it's like a privilege. And our mentality at Raleigh has been very, I don't want to say open, in terms of like, we're very welcoming, and I really don't care. Everyone should have access to all this information and all these these opportunities, I should say. So the example I'll give you is like, you know, a lot of clubs will say, okay, the club Liverpool's coming and we're going to have access to a training. And if you weren't a paid member by this particular day, then you don't get access to it. And I said, I don't care who you are. You want access to this training, pay a membership for us, and I'll try to do the best we can and everything else. But it's supposed to be more inclusive, and we're very welcoming to that. And as you know, one of the biggest benefits of being an official supporters club is access to tickets at Anfield.
Right.
But the more clubs they bring in, the harder it is for us to get tickets.
Yeah.
And I remember a couple of years ago, I could say pretty confidently, if a member came up to me and said, I want to go to Anfield next year, I felt pretty confident I could probably get you tickets through the process. Can't say that now because there are so many more clubs and there's so much higher requests, because it also helps that the team's playing better, right? So more people want to go because they're playing better. But you know, it's just part of the growing pains of becoming, you know, a dynasty or being a good franchise like this. So
Yeah, it is. So let's segue to your books, because one of the things that we've enjoyed here on the podcast is, you know, bringing people on that are bringing different perspectives, because, you know, two guys can talk about the game and you may not agree with what we say, our analysis, and then they're just gonna, you know, but we've enjoyed bringing other people on that are providing different perspectives that not everybody will know about. And so you know, you and we've known each other for a while, since 2015, I believe. And
yep,
so your
correct.
first book, Walking Through the Storm, right?
Nice.
And
Love it.
that was about the 2015-2016 season. And
Yes.
so if you, how does the decision how do you come to the decision to write this book in 2015 when Brendan Rodgers was still the coach at that time, right? Or did you, right? So when did you make the decision to write the book? And then how did you come to the conclusion that, hey, my style is going to be going around the country to different places and experiencing different atmospheres?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Honest to God, my decision to write that book, I didn't even know what the book was going to be about. It really was from the preseason as the team was getting prepared for the 2015-16 season. One of my pet peeves had always been, you know, and some of my good mates, they would make statements and then all of a sudden that statement would morph 3 months later and they'd be like, I never liked that guy. I said, well, no, actually you did. You know, I was like, I remember 3 months ago, you actually did like that guy. So
you can't do that as much now on social media because everybody will screen grab your stuff.
So what I decided to do was I bought a journal and I just started taking notes and I would just start, you know, documenting my thoughts and everything else. And then it just lucked out that that season I had a relatively busy travel schedule, work-wise and personal-wise. Mm-hmm. I happen to have a sister that lives in Atlanta, a brother that lives in Connecticut, in-laws that live in the New York area. Work was bringing me to, you know, at the time, LA for a work event. So I just had all these little trips that were going on in the first part of that season. And the access to the matches with the different clubs, I realized, like, you know, when I go to LA for this convention, I can watch Liverpool play, you know, in the Europa League on a Thursday and go to Joshua Daly's. And, of course, and I was, you know, taking notes and everything else. And I had not decided at that point that I was writing a book. I just said, I'm going to go ahead and just document what's going on and just thoughts like that. And it was at that point when I realized, you know, I love to travel. I love Liverpool and I love to drink beer and I love to go to the bars. And the one thing that we all have in common is we all meet at pubs.
That's right.
And I just said, you know what, this is like a light bulb moment. And I said, why don't I go to as many Liverpool pubs as I possibly can and get to meet people and start talking to the supporters and say, well, you know, why do you root for Liverpool? And why do you like soccer? Why do you know, that kind of thing. And so that's what it kind of morphed into. And then I realized if I'm going to go, into this project, I got to go all in. I've got to not just go to the places of comfort, but I've got to go to new places like Texas, and so I tried to find locations like Austin and San Antonio that were close enough that where you could go to a Thursday match and a Sunday match kind of thing, and economize my trips and whatnot. So so that it kind of just worked into that, and that's what the first project, Walking Through the Storm, was all about. Was kind of like, I felt like how the name came through is like, being a Liverpool fan was being in a storm. You didn't know how tempestuous it could be as a fan, but yet I'm going to walk through the storm, and I'm going to be, meeting my mates and meeting new mates, and going to the pub. And no matter where you go, you're going to find a place where you can watch Liverpool play, and that's what I love about it. And so yeah, that's kind of how it all happened, and that's of course where I remember the day I met you at Fido's. At the time, we were. I won't forget this. I went to Fido's. It was an early. It was early. The match was early. It's like 12 o'clock for you guys, I guess. And Man United were playing afterwards, and they're like, "Well, we're sharing your pub with Man United fans." And of course, after Liverpool won the game, there was no Man United fans there watching them play. So it was just, I laughed, but it was met some great people and great friends. And we stay in touch today. So.
It's funny because that at that time we were at Fido's, and now we have our own pub where we don't have to share at all, and it's quite a different atmosphere. There's some days, especially the Man United game, you almost kind of reminisce about them being there, and then but then it's nice to have our own place too, right?
Nearly having a fight.
Right. But I always tell everybody about your book, and because just the way you write, your style, I mean, especially this sentence, I mean, it's like Shakespearean, right? It's like Chris was chatting with Steve Wilson, a youngish looking fit lad that you could tell still laced up the boots. Man, I mean, that's like up there with Tolstoy and Pushkin. It's worth buying the book just for that sentence. You're welcome. Hey, but on a serious note.
So that's where your bookmark is.
That's right. But that's. Hey, you got to tell everybody where we can get your books first of all.
Sure, yeah.
Before we move on, so.
The books are on Amazon. Still available on Amazon. Walking Through the Storm is the first one. The second one is The Golden Sky, which was a little bit different style, because it's funny because I had been on the Anfield Rap, and I know those guys were supposed to come down to Austin, which I was hoping to get down there to see those guys. Those guys have been really good to me. But in any
we
event,
had it planned out,
I know. I was so bummed about that. But in any event, the Golden Sky was supposed to be originally going to be a sequel, in the sense that I was going to go to more pubs. But I realized, I was like, most of the pubs that I could get to cheaply and quickly, I've already been to. So if I'm going to really do a sequel justice to go to different pubs, I'm going to really cost a pretty penny. And let's be honest, I'm not making a killing on these books, right? It's a hobby. It's fun.
Oh, you will now, man. But we have the whole world listening to this podcast, so.
That would be great if I could quit my day job and do that. But what I decided to do, and I'll be perfectly honest, The Golden Sky, which I actually am very proud of that book in terms of the way it was written and everything else, which I have a copy here so you can see.
There you go.
But the thing about that was I wasn't even sure I was going to publish that book, until about 2 months before the season was over. I was taking my notes and I was doing that and everything else.
Yeah, that's a question I wanted to ask you, because when we hooked up again in 2016 in San Francisco, right?
Correct.
Was this first book published or no?
Yes,
at that time.
Yeah, I just gotten it published.
Yeah, just gotten it published. So
Yep.
obviously, you're admittedly hadn't made a killing off it, right?
Correct.
You've probably put some of your own money into getting it published.
Yes.
So that makes me want to write another book and publish another book. I mean, right or no?
So, so listen. So I'll be. Let me see how I can say this as honestly as I can. I really didn't have very many intentions of another book. What had happened was the way things were panning out that season. As an official supporters club, we had ticket requests coming in for the summer, and I was able to process all those requests. And we had one open match to put in requests. I said, I'm going to put in for the Man United game. Just 2 tickets. No one asked for them. We got them.
Right.
And so my brother, being a big, huge Liverpool fan, we used to do brotherly weekends all the time. So I said, told my brother, hey, listen, how would you like to, let's go to Anfield in December to watch Man United Liverpool. I mean, I would love to go to that match. He said, I'm in, let's do it. So a couple weeks go by and I say, hey, listen, the Champions League schedule's coming out and we're actually going to play on Tuesday. If I can get tickets, can we make a week out of it? He said, sounds good. Let's do it. So I was able to get tickets for the Napoli match, which was the infamous 1-0 victory to get us through. And, Alisson made that ridiculous save. And I'm not kidding you. I will tell you, as God's my witness, we had the worst possible seats in the cop in the upper section. There was, when I say worst possible seats, there were great seats, but no one was higher than us or further to the left of us. And when we were,
was your head on that wall?
Correct.
There?
We were tucked in that corner there, and we loved it. And we had no idea what happened. We literally had no idea what happened when Alisson made that save because it was on the other side, and on the Anfield Road side. And obviously, we won the match and we advanced, and it was a big party. And later that night, we were at Motel, which is one of the Anfield Rap guys' pub. And we're there and we're drinking and we're having a good time. I'm with Craig Hannon from Anfield Rap. He's with us and everything else. And on a big screen TV right in front of me and my brother was the game being replayed. I go, this is a better view than we had at the match itself. So we actually got to see how great that save was.
Oh, yeah.
And we're like, holy cow, that's ridiculous. It was like, we had no idea. But anyway, so that, all that being said, I'm digressing a little bit, but things just kind of worked out where I was having a lot of personal experiences with Liverpool, getting to see them play Man United, watch Shaqiri score 2 goals late, to win win that match. And then of course they went on this magical run to the Champions League, and I started realizing, what, this could be a good book, And so I always keep a journal and I always take notes, I still today, even though I don't have another book being planned, I still bring my journal with me when I go to the pub. And if I meet someone and I start talking to them and I find something interesting, I'll take notes about that and I'll ask them about stuff and I'll just jot it down. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go back and refer back to those notes and recreate the storyline. So the Golden Sky.
Darren used to keep a journal too when he went to the pub, but they were all on like napkins and they were just phone numbers. Before he got married.
And you used to be a comedian as well. You see how that turned out.
That's right. We don't quit our day job. That's right.
Yeah.
I was able to recreate a nice narrative though about my personal story, and part of it, when you read The Golden Sky, is my job takes me to Tennessee and periodically to Memphis, and every time I would go to Memphis we would lose, and that became kind of an underlying storyline. It's like it's like, shit, I'm going to be in Memphis, and we're playing. I didn't realize this, it's like I got to get the hell out of town before, they lose. So it was fun. It was.
Isn't it silly, the superstitions that we all have, right? On match day, on wearing certain things, or going to like the pub, or, last time I went to the pub, they lost, so I'm not going to go this time, and things like that. Yeah. Right. So
it's only silly if it doesn't work.
That's right.
I'm
sure Darren has some superstitions, Andy.
I actually don't. I don't really. Yeah.
Well, you gotta make one up. No.
I actually do have that. For me, it's more match day related. After 20 minutes of watching it in front of one TV, and I'm like, we're not playing well. I'm going to move over to this part of the bar and watch it in this TV. Like that matters, but you're right.
Matter. So you got the second book. I mean, so do you take notes this season when we won the championship and
So yeah, I didn't really do a whole lot of effort with taking notes this particular season because last season was such a successful relief, so to speak. Once I was a little bit behind the 8 ball because I did get a late start on the second book, so I had to go back and really recreate the early parts of the season for my notes. So by the time I actually got it published and everything else, I just said, you know what, I'm taking 2019 and 20 off. I don't care what happens. Of course, now I'm looking at the storylines going, shit, I should have been taking notes and writing a third book. But it's a time-consuming process, and like I said, it's not a full-time job. It's a hobby. So it was nice to be able to kind of sit back, relax, and enjoy the football, and enjoy my mates, and not worry about how am I going to fit this into a narrative for a book.
Are you sure you're traveling for work and not visiting breweries? Because every time I see a picture of you, you're at a brewery, and I know that your wife does the running. She's the fit one in your relationship.
What are you saying? Come on.
She's the fitter one in your. She's the fitter one in your relationship.
That is correct.
But doing research.
Yeah.
Come on.
But I know you like a pint, and I mean we've had many pints together, and so what's your recent favorite that you've had on your travels?
Oh God, that's a tough question. And full credit to the wife, she's a big beer fan as well. So that's part of the process. We don't have children, and if you read The Golden Sky, you'll learn in the book that our dog passed away, which was part of the narrative. But so we're kind of we're open to travel, and we love to go places. And when we travel, we like to go to breweries. We do home brew as well, so that's like a hobby of ours.
I know that.
So we like to brew our own beers, and we like to taste different beers. And she has her styles, I like my styles, and everything else. But so to answer your question, one of our favorite breweries, one of our favorite places to go is Asheville, North Carolina, which is a very big beer town.
And it's a beautiful place anyway.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's so nice. We were just there last weekend, which interesting story was that, we're both working from home. Our companies are gracious enough to allow us to do that. And I had a meeting in the mountains on Tuesday morning, and she was going running in the mountains on the weekend. And so I said, why don't I just come up to the mountains with you, and we'll just enjoy it. And then we'll work from home, from the hotel room on Monday. And then on Tuesday morning, I'll go to my meeting, and, we'll be gone. But the benefit of that was we were in Asheville for the weekend, and so got to go to some breweries and everything else. But New Belgium Brewery is a Colorado-based, Fort Collins, Colorado, and they make Fat Tire, which everyone knows that's their money beer. But they make some fantastic IPAs, and they make some what they call the Voodoo Ranger series. It's just really good. It just suits my my tastes really well. And they had this beer in the Voodoo Ranger series called 1985, which is
I just had some a couple weeks ago.
Oh, it's a mango style.
It's excellent.
Excellent beer. I loved it, and we ended up buying a case of it.
Well, even the artwork on the can is excellent.
Oh, it's like, I actually, this is true. I actually asked the waitress. I said, "Do you have any clothes, a shirt, hat, anything that has this out?" Because the Voodoo Ranger, the guy, the mummy guy, skull guy, whatever you want to call him, dressed up in 1985 gear, and
Right.
just like with the, the members only jacket and all that other crap, and I was just like, I want a shirt like this, but it's really good beer. So, I was enjoying some of that earlier today. So, but yeah, I'll tell you what.
Darren's not the IPA dude. So,
What do you like, Darren? What's your beer?
Just lager, really.
Is that a lager you're looking for?
Usually I drink Harp.
I'll tell you a quick story about that. We were in Scotland. We went to St. Andrews. My buddies and I was going golfing, and some of my friends from here from North Carolina, and they're not real experienced travelers. And my friend said we were at St. Andrews at one of the beverage centers of the golf courses, and I said, he's like, "Can I get a Heineken?" And the girl looked at him, and she's like, "No." He's like, "Is it a lager you're looking for, mate?" So that's every time someone says they want a lager, I just flash back to that moment in Scotland. So.
Yeah, I like me beers. I mean, just give me lager. I can drink those all day. Yeah.
Hey Ken, does with the situation that we're in, how is your local pub where the supporters meet? Are they okay? Are they gonna be able to pull through? Because I know it's probably the same question for many of the supporters clubs around the country who they're, especially like for us, they cater to, they open early for us. And, I felt bad last week. They opened and there was only a few people there. They opened before their normal opening times. And I imagine that's the same scenario for a lot of pubs around the country.
Yeah, and I feel bad because London Bridge Pub has been a really good supporter of us in Liverpool for a long time. They opened up right around the same time we formed in 2012, but they've had their issues in terms of other things in Raleigh with the after the George Floyd situation with the riots and whatnot, and they ended up getting vandalized, which is that's unfortunate. But on top of that, they rely so much on the football for the revenue because they are a sports bar, but they're a soccer bar, and they have so many fans that come in. And without question, Liverpool fans are their number one source of revenue in terms of football fans, right? They get a good Arsenal crowd, and they get a couple fans from Chelsea and Man United and everything else to come in, and they have a very good harmonious environment. But they're really getting affected by the fact that Liverpool have won the league, so people don't care to come out to watch them play because what's the point? We've already won the league. And then you've got the other clubs that are still competing. People want to come out and support the pub, but they're worried about the COVID, and they're worried about the proper social distancing, and then they had that whole incident, obviously, with the vandalism, and I think they're going to make it through. They're back open. They're not getting the numbers they want to get, and I get that, but I think that I'm hoping, and as a club, we are trying to support them as best we can. We've started a GoFundMe page for a lot of the workers there during the lockdown, and raised over $2,500 for them to pay to help their workers, and they're bringing everyone back now, and they're slowly but surely getting their feet back. I couldn't ask for a better place to go in Raleigh, and I just pray that things work out for them. Once the season kicks back in, people will have a reason to come back out, and maybe this COVID bullshit just kind of subsides, and people will get back to congregate. But until that happens, I worry about them, and we'll continue to support them as best we can. But I assume that all around the country that's going on, but
that's the thing, like with the COVID thing, you just it's like you want to go out, I mean, for me, like I'd love to go down the pub and watch Liverpool, but you know, you got to look after the family. You know, it's not just about me watching Liverpool in a pub. You know, so I've got 4 little ones, so it's them who you know I've got to look out for. So, but yeah, I just feel bad for all these pubs because there's a lot that's closing down. You know, because they just they can't afford it with only 25% occupancy coming through or 30%. It's not enough. You know,
it's not.
You know, and
I don't know how the success of Liverpool would have changed it, right? Because once the league was won, how packed is the pub going to be for Liverpool versus Chelsea on a Wednesday? If the league's already been won, with us out of every other competition, we won the only thing that we were still in. So, but I just feel really bad, and I hear about really good places that I used to like to go to for restaurants and bars and whatnot closing down, and then I can only, stop to worry about, my good friends that run the London Bridge pub, and just if you're in the Raleigh area, go to the pub, go to London Bridge pub, and support them. They make great food, but anyway,
I think we all hope and pray that these establishments can pull through this, and it's a hard time for everyone, just not the restaurants and bars, but across the country. Yeah. So we all, as a nation, we all want to get through this. So let me bring it back to football. Rion Brewster or Origi for next season? Darren, that's
okay. So the obvious.
Darren's shaking his head, so I want to know why he's shaking his head.
The obvious answer there.
Neither of them. Neither. No,
the obvious answer for me is Brewster's obviously got the upside. I love Origi for what he's done for the club. I have a shirt with Origi, and that's strictly based on one head ball against Everton. I was like, how can I not buy this guy's shirt? But I love the guy, and actually I love the guy also more for what the quote in James Miller's book when he talked about how the guy's just in his own world living. It's like everyone needs to live on planet Origi,
Yeah.
So I love the guy. Listen, I've always been a fan of every Liverpool player, but I respect loyalty. And when you got a guy that like Origi that went out on loan, came back, earned his way on the team, when he came on against Everton in that derby, 0-0, people forget like the week before that he came on in the Champions League and against what's that team, Red Star, and I was like, well,
great,
Klopp is, Red Star, and he's like, Klopp's really getting desperate. He's pulling out Origi, and I keep telling people, I said, you know what, you don't see what goes on in training. Klopp sees something in the guy, so why not? And then when he came on, and people said, oh, he's not going to do anything, and then he scores that goal, and I said, you know what, the guy's got to be working his ass off in training, and he's got to bring something to the table, and I got to respect that. And he never quit on the club, and the club didn't quit on him. So,
it's interesting you say that, because leading up to the Europa final, he was our best player before he got in, right?
Absolutely.
And how many times do people go out on loan and come back and are a contributor? I mean,
especially when he didn't do shit at Wolfsburg,
Right. So, I mean, it's very rare for somebody to go out on loan, come back, and then you're a major part of the team that's wins trophies. Obviously, you're not going to forget, against Barcelona too, right? So those
Barcelona, and then Tottenham in the final.
Of course.
Arsenal as well.
Yeah.
He scored those two goals.
Right. So the correct answer to your original question is Brewster 100%. Brewster 100%. But Divock Origi will always have a spot on the roster for me.
Sure.
He could be a squad player that gets 10 matches a year. I'm okay with that. But I'm not relying on him to be the fourth striker. I'm not relying on him to be a contributor that's going to be able to step in if one of our top three gets hurt. I think Brewster's the future. But God, how can you not love Divock Origi?
Right.
Especially his new hair.
Well, let's not get carried away, Dad. Let's not get carried away.
Well, Ken's going to do the same hair next week, I think.
If I had some hair, maybe I would.
Yeah, I think Brewster needs another year loaned out.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that there is a future for him. I don't think. Listen, at the end of the day, I think the superstars of Liverpool's future know that they're going to be superstars at some club already, and I'm not so sure Brewster's that guy. Right? He's at that point where you would know that this guy's got something. He's got a special skill. He's going to be a Ballon d'Or contender, and we know that's not him. So,
yeah,
can he be a squad player and contributor? Absolutely. But is he going to be the next Mo Salah or Sadio Mane? Probably not.
I don't think it has to be those guys, but I think that the direct comparison for me would be like a Rashford, right? Because Rashford's only a couple years older than him. And you see the development of him, and they to me have similar attributes and skill sets. And I think being with the first team and practicing against them all the time and practicing against Virgil and Gomez and Trent, I think Klopp has proved the people that he wants around, he will keep around. So I really think that he will stay with the club next season, in my opinion. I may be wrong, but I think he'll stay.
Listen, I go back to what I said before. Whatever Klopp decides is I'm okay with.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot to be said about staying around Melwood or Kirkby, wherever they're going to be playing and training, and training against the Virgil van Dijks and the Robertsons and Trents and the Gomez's. That could be more valuable than playing in the championship. So, something to be said about that for a young developing talent.
Right.
I think Elliot's going to be the superstar. I do.
Yeah, can we please do something about that hair?
He can have that hair if he wants. I don't care, just as long as he turns into, he looks like a proper footballer to me.
Let me just say something that a lot.
But it is horrible.
This is the thing. When we talked about this a little bit earlier, but when people talk about the club maybe kind of faltering a little bit after they clinch the league, and you have to look at a guy like Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, Nico Williams, and say they've got to get their matches in to get that medal. And I respect Klopp for trying his damnedest to get them those medals, because he wants everyone to enjoy the fruits of the labor that they've been through to win the 30th or win the league in the 30 years or whatever. So I'm okay with dropping points to Burnley, right? And if that means Harvey Elliott can come on, and I know he didn't, but Nico Williams started 2 straight games. If that gives him the matches he needs to get that medal, I think that's just good man management. Because he's giving them the bait that's going to drive them to the next level. So that's at least what I'm hoping. And I do agree. I think Harvey Elliott, man, I tell you what, man, I watched him in some of those FA Cup games, and what a talent that kid could be. And to think that he's only 17, I mean, good Lord, what a player. I don't know if you noticed this, but he's left-footed, but I think he's right-handed, because I was watching him sign something the other day, and I go, is he right-handed and left-footed, or is he just naturally ambidextrous? But what a talent that kid is. So
yeah, I can only see his future just getting brighter and brighter. Which Curtis as well and Nico. But to go back on that though, I mean, Klopp putting these 3 lads in the squad is just making the other under 23, under 18 players look up and go, that can be me in 2 seasons, 3 seasons.
I agree. And I was saying this to some of my mates at the pub, or at least not at the pub, but they're like, we need to sign this guy or sign that guy and everything else. I said, well, are they going to be any better than Nico Williams? Are they going to be any better than Curtis Jones? And at least now you're saving money. You got better wage rate for that, and you're being more fiscally responsible. But you're creating a need for players to want to play at Liverpool as a youth, and then staying within the system. Say, I can be the next Trent Alexander-Arnold. I can be the next Nico Williams. I can be the next Curtis Jones, and that's healthy. So I'm all for it. So. I don't think that any of these guys that they're talking about, Ryan Fraser coming in or some of these other players, are going to be that much more significant impact than a Harvey Elliott would be.
Well, I mean, these youngsters are already bedded into the squad.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't see the point in doing that this season if you're not going to play them next season.
Correct.
That just doesn't make any sense to me. So obviously, that those three players that we talked of are going to get more matches next season. Again, it's just this like winning mentality. Like, well, we've won the league, so we want to win it again. So we have to strengthen. But if Klopp thinks these three lads are the answer, then they're the answer. But end of the day, they have to get experience as well, and they'll be cheap, which is good.
Yeah, I was like, what has Klopp done to force you to second guess his decisions, right?
Oh, social media, mate. Yeah, good God. Like, everybody's an armchair manager. I wish it never existed, to be honest. But it's my fault for reading the crap.
That's what I say too.
Yeah, a couple of seasons ago, I used to get on there and just go at him. I mean, Steve could attest to this. It'd be pinging, going, Daz is on the damn thing, replying to these morons again. Now I'm just like, I read it and just shake my head and just go, just whatever. Live in your fantasy little world, and if you're not happy with this team, there's something wrong with you.
Correct.
So plans for Wednesday? You staying home and watching the match?
So I'm in discussions with the pub owner. We're trying to figure out if they want to do a special private party for their close and friendly friends, whether or not it's going to be Wednesday or Sunday. No, but Wednesday I'll probably end up at home, mostly because that's where I'm working now, working from home. We were fortunate enough last match to be part of the NBC watch party.
Yeah, we saw you on there.
I saw that.
Yeah, you seem to fun. I was like, hey, look, I got my book.
That's right. That should have just been your profile right there. Just had your book pasted to your camera.
The funny thing about it was we were all on Zoom like this, and we had 16 of us, and the guy that was producing it for NBC goes, okay, everyone get loud. And I was like, my wife was downstairs working in the living room, and I'm upstairs, in my office, but she could totally hear me. So I'm doing this. I'm like,
right.
I'm like, I'm not talking because I don't want her to hear me, but they can't tell the difference. But anyway, it was funny because it was a lot of fun. But
it's funny. It's like people are like texting me like, Steve, how come we're not? I'm like, we had Fan Fest here, so I think they're full of us already. We've had our time in the limelight. Let's let some other clubs, get featured.
So I don't know how many of the guys from my supporters club will be listening to it, and I'll be this podcast. I'll be telling them to listen to it. I'll be telling them to listen to it. But we had a couple of the guys go, man, I saw the Philly guys on there. We should get on there and everything else. Blah blah blah. That'd be awesome. We should do it. Blah blah. And then like the very next day, I checked my email and Jane was like, hey, Raleigh, would you like to be a part of this? I'm like, yes, please. And hey guys, ask and you shall receive. You want to be part of this Fan Fest thing or this virtual watch party? We got it. And then I had actually no input in making that happen. It literally was just luck. that they asked us to do it. So we had a lot of fun doing that. But yeah, no, for the Chelsea match, I will full disclosure, I have a couple of good friends of mine that are Man United fans and supporters, and they have gotten all on board with us, knowing that if we can beat Chelsea, that helps their chances of Champions League. And I laugh at some of the fans that have said, would you rather us lose to Chelsea so that Man United doesn't help them get in? And I was like, absolutely not. No, you win. I hate Chelsea too. It's like, you know what? If anyone thinks that the financial impact of not making Champions League is going to affect a club like Manchester United, you're being naive. They're going to buy the players they want. They're going to get whatever they need. So I'm all for having Man United in the Champions League, especially when they fall down to Europa League by finish third in the group and we go on the knockout stage. So I'm cool with it. But yeah, so for the Chelsea match, it'll be a very good match. I'm not a big Chelsea fan. I really can't stand those bastards. So I love Christian Pulisic, but I just can't stand them. I want to kick their ass. So let's kick their ass and beat them at home. And more importantly, yes, we drew with Burnley, but man, going undefeated at Anfield, keep that streak alive. That's fine.
The night that you're gonna lift the trophy, you don't want to lose.
Win.
Yeah. These people make me mad. I just put up a post actually, just going, these people are mental. Like, you know, to me, that you're not a fan. You're not a proper Liverpool fan if you want us to lose.
Yeah, you never want to lose.
Yeah, and like you said, I don't care if United get in Champions League. Who cares? We're not fans of United. We're Liverpool Football Club fans. That's right. It. That's all we should worry about. Like, who cares? And if they do make top four, then they deserve it. I know people don't want to hear it, but they deserve it. So,
and if it buys Ole another year or two,
yeah,
that's right.
Come on.
That's my opinion.
Sign
Keep
that
him there as
lifetime
long
contract.
as possible.
Come on, lifetime contract.
Give him the contract. Give him the contract. Tell him put whatever number he wants. Sign right here.
Oh man, what a divvy.
Ashamed to admit that he used to be a Liverpool fan, but growing up. But no, I'm with you on that. If they have earned it and deserved it, yeah, they've earned it. So who are we to? You're not going to lose intentionally to Chelsea just to keep them out of it.
No, but
I'm not going to root against it.
I think Brendan has something up his sleeve anyway for the last match of the season. That's going to be a good match.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that is a good match. That's with
a
lot of money.
I'm actually more interested in that match than I am against Newcastle. I mean, honestly, I'll have an eye on both matches, I guess. But
yeah.
Well, you do watch two tellies, right?
That's right. Well, he goes into another room if we're not winning. So
yeah.
I go to another television. Yeah.
Somebody else's house.
Yeah. Hey, Ken, this has been brilliant, man. It's always good to see you again and talk to you. And I know you and we message all the time, and you just appreciate your time here tonight. So before we sign off, let's talk about your books. This first one, Walking Through the Storm, and the second one
is The Golden Sky.
Yes, and both are available on Amazon. So for all our listeners who want to get some behind-the-scenes perspective on fandom here in the United States and also some of Ken's contacts that he has with Liverpool, please support Ken and all the other authors that we bring onto the show.
Thanks, Steve, for having me. Thanks, Daz.
No, you're welcome, mate.
So this is it's been brilliant, Steve. I can't wait to see you again. And maybe if there's enough interest, maybe I'll come back to Austin, and if nothing else, I have a few pints. So. Oh
yeah, you got to come to BD Raleigh's, where it's just us, and we pack the place, and totally different atmosphere from when you were here before, and you're always a good company here, man. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hopefully, we'll have the boat party sometime.
Yeah, I'll send you a VIP invitation for that.
Looking forward to it. That'll be fun.
Cheers, man. Tell your wife I said hello.
I will certainly do that. So she's snoring away upstairs. So I might be passing out on the couch down here in the living room. But no, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Ken.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Daz.